Peace and love, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. And if you're new, please like and subscribe. And I am Queen Tamara of Astral Healing Arts Wellness Center. Welcome, everyone, this beautiful Wednesday evening. I hope everyone is feeling great and surrounded by love, peace, and happiness. Tonight, we're going to be talking about a topic that is very, very serious and somewhat close to home with myself in particular. This year, 2023, has brought many changes um, in many forms, and some of the changes were a little difficult. We had a death, actually, two deaths in the family. The extended family, and the second death was someone that's like very close to me, and we bonded like mother and daughter, but we weren't genetically or blood relatives, but we had become family over the years. And the death of both people was difficult, and so I guess I went through a grieving process, and more because it was difficult to adjust to the change, because these were people that I saw on a regular basis. I talked to, frequently, several times a week, and did a lot of things together, and it was like a routine with them. Certain places I went with one of them all the time, and certain things that I did, annually or whatever. It was just like um missing their presence because we had such a close bond and we were together a lot. And so that's been an adjustment for me. And I've experienced grief before in different forms, grieving over people who have transitioned in the past. Also, sometimes when a marriage or relationships end, we will find ourselves in a grieving process. Um, Also, when sometimes you put your hopes into something and it doesn't work out as you planned, or it comes to an end. It can be a business or a project, or something that you work on and you put a lot of your all and your energy into, and then when it doesn't work out, that can also cause people to feel a sense of grief. I've met people who, one of my friends had to move away from her family because there was a lot of tension and turmoil in within her family, her immediate family, and just to keep the peace, she moved away from them. And that wasn't a decision that she wanted to make. It was more of a reluctant decision to make. And so she went through a grieving process as well, because things didn't turn out the way she wanted. It was just so much tension, turmoil, and dysfunction in the family. She felt that for her peace of mind and the peace of mind of her children, she had to move away from her mother and siblings. She used to live with her mother, and because of the tension in the household and the constant bickering and arguments, she just felt like, I got to move away just to have my peace of mind and just to have balance again, because she didn't want her children witnessing um, the arguments that would sometimes, become very abusive. And so she chose to move away, and she went through like a grieving process, or feeling sad, feeling upset, feeling isolated away from her family. So all of these can cause us to have grief, and grief is a feeling of loss. And like I said, it can be a feeling of loss from a relationship, or a loved one transitioning. Both can cause us grief. And grief is an emotion that can affect the heart chakra, and it can particularly be damaging to the heart chakra if it's prolonged grief. There are some people who grieve many years over a loss, especially loss of a loved one. And um, grief, I would say, is a natural process. It's a natural emotion that you feel. You do feel some sorrow or sadness when an abrupt change has taken place, or in the event of a person transitioning, or a pet transition, or whatever, that can cause a sense of grief and, a feeling of sadness, a feeling of loss. So tonight I'm going to speak with you all about ways to cope with grief, some that I have used myself and some that I have learned from others over the years. So, grief is a very real emotion, and it's a part of us, the human experience, as we will experience loss at some point in our life, whether it's a loss of a loved one, like I said, loss of a business, loss of a relationship, loss of, you may feel that you may lose your home, especially in things like natural disasters, fires, etc. Those things can cause you to lose your, can be just an abrupt ending, and that can cause a swift change, and it can lead to grief, which is understandable, especially if, you lost your home from a natural disaster or fire, and you lost everything. Just imagine those people that lived in Turkey that they experienced the earthquake a few months ago. It just took a few seconds, and many people were left homeless, left, children were left without parents, parents were left without children, people were just left feeling a sense of devastation, and it happened so quickly. That can be a grieving process as well. To leave your home one morning and come back home and it's not there, or not even be able to make it back home because it's gone, everything's gone. That can definitely cause an abrupt sudden change and can lead to grief, which is a feeling of loss, and that's understandable. And loss is a natural reaction and feeling that we have, and there's ways to cope with it. So, in the event of a person going through a painful breakup from, a beloved significant other, that is a type of grief that's a little different from a loss over a person, or beloved pet or something transitioning. So when it's a breakup, oftentimes we feel a sense of loss because we feel rejected by the person that we broke up with, or we feel that sometimes we feel we may not find anybody else, or we just feel brokenhearted, or we feel um disappointed, hurt, all kinds of emotions. And a lot of times when people are going through breakups, they're upset with themselves as well. They feel like, I should have left this person sooner. Never should have gotten involved with them, etc. And a lot of times when people are going through breakups and they're trying to heal from it, they will have a lot of negative self talk, or they'll beat up on themselves a lot because of the decisions that they made that they regretted. So when you're going through a painful breakup like that, and that process of grieving, just allow the feelings to come through. Allow yourself to feel whatever you're feeling and be okay with those feelings. Yes, sometimes you're going to be angry with that person. Sometimes you're going to feel like, oh, we can work it out. And then there'll be times where you'll feel bitter. Then there's times where you'll go through a myriad of emotions, and that's totally okay. And just accept it, that this is a part of the process. But always remember to love yourself through that grieving process of a breakup. Remember to love yourself. Don't compromise your worth for feelings of, loneliness, or, or whatever. Do not compromise and second guess yourself. If you know the relationship ended and it was not a healthy one, then allow yourself some time to grieve and then move on with your life. Do not go back to an unhealthy relationship because you fear being alone, or you fear that you won't find anyone else, or whatever, the case may be. And many of us go through that, but do not allow yourself to compromise what's best for you, and don't compromise your self-respect and your dignity to stay in an unhealthy relationship, because in the end you're going to get hurt and you're going to regret it. And some of these unhealthy, toxic relationships end very badly. And I've seen people wish they had gotten out sooner. So please take this bit of advice. If it's an unhealthy, unhappy, toxic relationship, let it go and move on quickly before you get to a point where it's too late. So that can also cause a sense of grief, losing losing, feeling like we lost someone in the relationship. um Grief can come in many forms, like I said, and the most common form is the loss of, excuse me, hiccups, the loss of a loved one who has transitioned. And I'm carefully using the words because I want to say transition instead of death, because death feels like the end. When we say something has died or met its demise, it just sounds so final. And death is, transition sounds better because that's what actually has happened. The soul is transitioning. And we know that we are all spiritual beings having a human experience. And we hear that over and over again. The mystery schools had the words know thyself. So to know thyself is to know God, and to know that you are a divine spark of life. All of us, we're divine sparks. We are fire seed atoms of the divine. And that aspect of us will never perish and will never die. It will always exist. It always has. And this part of us is, when we talk about death, we have to ask what exactly is dying. And it's the physical form that ceases to exist, but the spirit and soul lives on before and after we leave this vessel that we call, our human flesh. So we will continue to live on, but just in a different form or in a different dimension. And many of us will experience the loss of a loved one at some point in our lives. And those feelings of loss are very real, even though as a spiritual inclined person, I know that people, death is not the end, that they're making the soul is making a transition as it releases the body. I know this, but sometimes it still um, feels hurtful when someone transitions. And that's natural, because like I said, you have memories with this person, you may have created life with this person, you may have it could be a parent, it may be someone that has been an emotional support and significant in your life. And so yes, you are going to feel a sense of loss when they transition, but transform that loss feeling into a feeling of joy and contentment, knowing that your loved one has returned to source, as we all will at some point, and knowing that this is where our our newborns are coming from. So we rejoice, and we're so excited and happy when a new baby comes into our world or into our lives, and we call it new life. But it's all life. You might as well call them an old life, because some of them are old souls. So all of us are having this beautiful human experience we call life. We're going from the newborn to a child to an adult, and then we grow up and become, elders. And all of these stages in life are have beautiful moments and beautiful lessons. There's a beautiful lesson in being an infant, lessons in childhood, lessons in adolescence, lessons in adulthood, and lessons as we become elders in our community. Hopefully, we are becoming elders, not just elders, but elders. It's someone that can lead their community with guidance. And then we will transition someday into the ancestor realm and just be honorable ancestors to someone. So remember that we are someone's ancestor. And just like ancestors that came before us, at some point in time, we are also going to be someone's ancestors. So keep that in mind as well, to give you comfort and to give you joy. So grief can also come in waves, particularly, well, it doesn't matter what type of grief it is, whether it's the loss of relationship, business, venture, loss of a home, loss of a loved one who has transitioned. Doesn't matter. It will come in waves. There's some times where the waves will be very strong, and then there's other times where not so. Sometimes memories of that person, or looking at things that belong to them, or seeing their image, or hearing, some, maybe, a tape of their voice or something like that, may bring you to tears. um the holiday seasons or special things you used to do with your loved one may bring, a great sense of sadness over you. And then there are other times where you can remember them and reminisce with smiles and with joy and laughter, and remember the fun times that you had with them. So it comes in waves. Sometimes it's stronger than others. Sometimes it may be delayed. Oftentimes when things come to an end, it may feel surreal, and I can totally relate to that feeling. And it just doesn't feel real at first. And then as the reality or the feeling of the realness begins to set in, you will feel differently. And that's okay as well. You have to allow these feelings to just traverse and just come and go. And that's what they do. And you just learn to ride those waves of grief as they come, and face them with courage, and face them with strength, because you're going to need that to get through any period of your life, whether even through the grieving process. Grief is a process, and know that it is a process, meaning there, like I said, there's stages to it, there's ways to it. You go through many different feelings when you're grieving. There's, denial at times. There's times where people will try to ignore their grief. And hi, Dia, how are you? Thank you for joining. We have somebody in the chat. And then there's other times where we'll feel a sense of not just denial, but like some people ignore it. They keep themselves busy so that they don't think about the sense of loss that they're feeling, or so that they can stay away. They keep themselves busy so that they don't have to think about grief, and so that they don't have to feel anything. So different people process it, and process their grief in a different way, and it feels different. Some people turn their grief into a way to express their creativity. Like sometimes when people are grieving, they'll paint, or they'll start making something, they'll start making a project, and this is their way of releasing their pain and their frustration and the sadness that they feel. And then other people will break down, and that's okay, because it's different for each person. Different people express the process of the grief differently. Some people prefer not to feel anything, and so they may turn to substance use and abuse to cope with the feelings of grief. And some people just stay in a state of denial and ignore it. It's different for everybody, and depending on your level of emotional maturity, and also depending on what type of coping skills you have, all of that determines how you cope with the grieving process. And some of us have great coping skills, and it's a process too to learn that, because that's not something a lot of us are taught, how to cope with our feelings and our emotions and how to process them. So when you are in the grieving process, or one of your loved ones is, just remember to be patient. Don't try to push them to get over things, because it's not that simple. And a lot of times people will say things to others who are, is very insensitive. Tell people, well, your mom died, 10 years ago. Why are you still crying? You should get over it. Or, being insensitive. If a person's going through a breakup, they might say, why are you crying over that person? They this, and this. You don't know why the person is crying. They may be crying because they feel abandoned, or they feel um angry or hurt at them, angry with themselves because they made an unwise choice. They're beating up on themselves. They're feeling guilty. It's many things that they could be feeling. So if you don't know what to say, just try to offer some comforting words, or don't say anything, but just don't make people feel worse when they're going through grief. And also the same for is applicable to yourself. Be patient with yourself, be patient with others when they're grieving. Don't rush people or say, why are you grieving? Or that person was sick, why are you taking it so hard? That's just not the right thing to say when a person is in that state. Because even if you were caring for someone who was sick for years, and it was terminal, it's still a shock when the moment comes when that person transitions. Even when you're prepared for it, it's still, you're not prepared when it happens, because it's just still a feeling that can feel like shock waves, and you still need time to process it and grieve it. So when people say these things as insensitive, please keep in mind that the person is grieving, and how they grieve may not be the way you do. And you have to allow them their space and allow them their room to feel whatever it is that they're feeling, and allow them to process it and get through it. And please don't ever tell somebody you should get over something, because it takes time. It's a process, and everybody doesn't grieve the way other people do, and everybody doesn't have the same coping skills. And to just ignore something and put it back on the back burner and act like it's not bothering you, that may be the way you cope with grief. But if other people need to cry, scream, let it out, if they need to paint or do something creative, or you know, immerse themselves into exercise or something to express their pain, or dance. Sometimes people get up and dance, start dancing, because this is a way to release that energy and those pent up emotions. It's whatever they need for themselves. And I think instinctively we all know what's good for us and what we need. And so some people may need a period of isolation when they're grieving. Some people need time to be alone and to process and think things out. Allow them whatever it is that they need to grieve. Be sensitive and considerate and loving enough to allow them whatever space that they need so that they can grieve in peace. One of the things that helps you cope with grief is to remember to stay positive. Stay positive, regardless of whatever is happening in your life. Succumbing to negative thinking is really not going to help you at all. It's just going to make you feel worse. Stay positive. Know that this, whatever is happening, whatever this situation is that's causing you to feel grief, know that it's temporary. And once these feelings pass and you start to develop a way of coping with it, you'll feel better. Things will get better for you, and life will just get easier as you as you cope with whatever it is that you're grieving from. Stay positive. Look at the bright side, or the positive end of whatever it is. If it's the loss of something, know that this feeling will shall pass. Know that this too shall pass. Know, if it's a loved one that has transitioned, know that they're in a better place. That they never really, you never lose them. They never fully leave you, because those memories and the love that they share with you, that energy will be with you always. And so keep that in mind when someone is passing, or transitioning, or has transitioned. Keep that in mind, and that positive um, sense of being a part of them and them a part of you will help you get through the grieving process. And just remember, love is an energy, and the love that you shared with, your loved one that transitioned, they felt that, and that's a part of them, and you felt it as well, and it was reciprocated. And that bond that you had with them, even if it was your pet, that bond and that love that you shared will always be a part of you, will always live in your heart chakra and be a part of you and a part of them. So that bond united you, and you still have them. So don't feel like that they're lost to you forever. So keep that in mind. That love that you had with them is there, it still grows. You can still nurture it, and just allow that love and those memories to bring you joy and happiness when you think about or speak about that loved one. Um, During this time that you're grieving, also tap into your spiritual tools and your spiritual practices. Always. I know I say that a lot when it comes to coping with everything, but really, folks, that is the answer to a lot of our problems, is tapping into our spiritual practices and our spiritual tools. Those things will help you get through any difficult storm in your life. I know sometimes it sounds cliche, and it's easier said than done. This is very true. However, it's it's very real. It's a very real phenomenon that we all have. We all have our spiritual tools and spiritual practices that can help bring us comfort and joy and peace of mind. So, if you're going through the grieving process, allow the grief to be a time for you to nurture yourself and to tap more into yourself and connect more with you. So, if you need time to go within and to be alone, use that time to meditate more. Use that time to pray more, read more scripture, find solace and comfort and peace in your spiritual practices and your spiritual tools. Those things will help you get through the difficult times, the sad times. Um, Spend a lot of time in nature. Um, that's so underrated, but we really do. We really, nature heals. If being near water makes you feel comforted and soothed, then spend more time near water. If you have to move and be and live near the ocean or live near a river or lakeside, then do that. Whatever it takes to comfort you. But spend more time in nature. Um, Volunteering, maybe working with people less fortunate than yourselves, or working with a lot of people have emotional support animals. Volunteering around animals, for some people, that's comforting, especially taking care of um, baby animals or small, farm animals, and the unconditional love and the excitement that they bring, especially when animals recognize you and they're happy to see you. They're very excited, they wag their tail, sometimes they jump around, and that really makes a lot of people feel loved. And it's very unfortunate that we live in a world where a lot of us don't turn to one another for emotional support. We have to turn to the pets, which there's nothing wrong with that, no judgment, no foul. But we should also be able to give that. We should be giving and receiving that kind of love from one another, treating people as you want to be treated, and giving and receiving love freely without judgment, and treating people with kindness and respect and just consideration, and making people feel loved is so crucial and so critical at this time. And especially now on our planet, there's so much of a lack of love and loving kindness and tenderness and kind words. And this is what people need. And everyone is searching for that. People are looking all kinds of ways, seeking love, doing very destructive things in the pursuit of love, self-destructive things in the pursuit of love. And you hear the saying that hurt people, and that hurt is coming from a lack of love, not feeling love, not expressing love, not being loved. And it's just the reality of the world we live in. A lot of people just do not love their own family members. Don't there's no real genuine love that a lot of people are feeling. Some people will tell me they've never felt like they've ever been loved, and that's very, very unfortunate and disturbing, and can be grief inducing on its own. And so we need to be that emotional support for one another. Take the time to ask someone how they're doing and really mean it. Don't say, hey, how you doing, in passing, but when you ask someone, how are you, take the time and stop and listen. And in this modern world, a lot of us feel like we're too busy for people, or too busy to really show any kind of genuine interest in one another. And that really needs to stop. That really needs to stop. We need to check on each other. We need to love on each other. We need to make our loved ones a priority, make our family, our friends, the people we say we care about, a priority, make ourselves a priority. Make sure you loving yourself as well, not just everybody else, but make sure you make time for expressing love. And love is how you heal grief. So keep that in mind as well. Find love on the inside of yourself. If you feel like you've lost love from someone, start focusing on the love that is within you. If you can start cultivating the love within yourself by loving yourself and expressing love to others, that is a great way to begin the healing process when it comes to grief. You can express that love in many ways, and there's no single way to do that. Like I said, some people like to create things when they're grieving. They're like building things, they like painting, they'll create something masterful while they're grieving, because this helped them to process their feelings, and it helps them to get it out, and it helps them to heal. Do that in a loving way. Find ways to express self-love while you're going through this process. So if you like dancing, take a new dance class, go somewhere each week and dance, or even start your own dance class. If dancing helps you move that energy around and release it. If you like painting, paint a mural, volunteer to paint something or create something of your own, and you can display it at an art gallery, you can sell it, you can do whatever. If you some people like to make things with their hands, like jewelry, wire wrapping, building something new, furniture, new house, whatever it is that you like to make that will help you process the grief, then do that. Do more self pampering and more self love to help yourself cope with the grieving process as well. That's another great way to heal, as you pamper and love yourself. And as you love yourself, you're healing yourself. And this will definitely help you through this process. So remember, while you're going through this, be patient with yourself and others. Know that it is a process. Allow the process, allow yourself to feel whatever feelings that you're having, and that it's natural and it's normal. Welcome it and accept it. Make peace with it and allow the feelings to just flow and to pass. Give yourself time and give others time to grieve. Time heals all wounds, and it truly does. You'll never forget the loved one that has transitioned. They'll always be a part of you, but in time, you will slowly begin to feel less of a sense of loss and more of a sense of this person will be with me always. And the love that we had, the love that we shared, is still a part of my life and a part of theirs. Um, I hope this was helpful to you all as you are, are out there going through any type of grieving process. If you need someone to talk to, there are grief counselors. You can also try some of the techniques that I suggested today to see if that helps you with the grieving process. And if you feel like you need a little bit more, then do seek grief counseling, a grief support group. That's very helpful, to know that you're not alone, and to talk to other people who are going through something similar that they can relate, which is the whole beauty and the power of the support group, because you support one another. You can also read books about grief. Make sure you tap into your spiritual practices and your spiritual tools, and you know, send me an email or comment down below and let me know how you all are coping with grief and what are some of the things that you do to help yourself heal and feel better. So with that, I hope everyone is surrounded by love, peace, and abundance, happiness, and many, many blessings. And I hope you all have a wonderful, peaceful week. Peace and love to you all.